Welcome to the APA PsycInfo Beginner Search webinar. If you normally search Google or Google Scholar, or maybe searching the behavioral science literature feels a bit daunting, this 45-minute session designed for students, faculty, and other users new to APA PsycInfo can help. It will show you efficient and easy way of finding what you're looking for on any search platform for APA PsycInfo. Today's webinar is part one of a two-part series focused on searching the PsycInfo database. And in part two, which is next week, same time, same day, we will cover some more advanced search techniques. So a brief overview of today's session. First, I'll cover a bit of background about APA PsycInfo and what it contains, followed by a few recommendations about where and how to begin your search. Then we'll take a brief look at the three ways APA describes a publication and the benefits of learning how to use APA's index terms from the APA Thesaurus in your search, followed by an overview of Boolean Logic. After the search demonstration, I'll share some APA resources and training material before wrapping up with how to contact us and the Q&A session. APA PsycInfo currently contains more than 5.3 million bibliographic records. Most of the records are for journal articles. Coverage includes nearly 2,300 journals, and 99% of the journal content is peer-reviewed. You'll also find information about book chapters, dissertations, and other publications, and more than 144 million cited references in APA style. APA PsycInfo contains a lot of historical content. The earliest materials date back to the late 1500s, as well as current and cutting-edge research. At its core, APA PsycInfo is a location tool to help you find the most relevant resources for your research. It does not contain the actual full text of the materials, but your library system has a lot of tools and resources for you that form a bridge between APA PsycInfo and the content that you need. APA PsycInfo is a bibliographic catalog that begins with the full text, like the articles shown on the left, which our professional indexers analyze and use to extract important pieces of information to create the bibliographic record on the right. So each APA PsycInfo record contains dozens of fields to provide you with a snapshot of what the piece of content is about. When APA PsycInfo is searched through a discovery tool or in combination with another database, there's only a short list of limited fields that are included. And so this is due to the lowest common denominator factor. So you'll only see fields that are found in any database. And there are less than 10 of these fields, and they're fairly high level. And now you can compare that to searching APA PsycInfo on its own, and you'll have access to all of its more than 40 fields. APA Publishing has put a lot of effort into creating each APA PsycInfo record, extracting key pieces of information from many levels of detail. This professional indexing process provides not only a comprehensive view of the resource, but also a unique opportunity for powerful and precise searching that's only available when searching APA PsycInfo directly and independently of other databases. So now that we've covered a little bit about why searching APA PsycInfo independently of other databases is important, here's how to start. You can look for the link to APA PsycInfo in your library subject guides, for example, for psychology, or you can look in the A to Z list of databases. Although a discovery service provides a Google-like single box search experience that feels familiar, there's a simple approach to finding sources that definitely has a trade-off. So if you use the discovery service, you're going to miss out on a lot of relevant content that you can only find by searching the APA PsycInfo database directly. And that's primarily due to the accessibility of those few fields that we saw a few moments ago. So this example shows a search that begins with the library's OneSearch discovery tool. Although you can limit the discovery tool's search result to content in the APA PsycInfo database, it's not the same as searching APA PsycInfo directly. You'll only have access to that small subset of fields rather than all the fields that APA PsycInfo has to offer. So the example shown here will show you the fields available when searching APA PsycInfo along with APA PsycArticles on EBSCO. So you can see that the list of fields are available, and those drop-down lists for each of those two scenarios is almost identical. This is an example of a library subject guide for psychology databases that links to APA PsycInfo. You can also see this library's A to Z list of databases. Some libraries might have it under A for APA PsycInfo, while others will list it under P for PsycInfo. Next up, we'll talk about the 3 ways that APA describes a resource. So there are 3 types of descriptive vocabularies found in each APA PsycInfo record that will give you an idea of what the research is about. So first, we have keywords, and these are terms that authors use to describe their research. There's no standardization, so they can seem kind of random at times, but they're a great source for interdisciplinary, technical, and cutting-edge terminology. By comparison, you have index terms, and these are assigned by APA staff according to the controlled vocabulary of the APA Thesaurus, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in a moment. We also have classification codes, and these are a set of general terms that categorize a resource by its primary subject matter. So APA staff typically assign 1, or occasionally you'll see 2 in a record. So you can think of classification codes like big bucket or umbrella categories. To illustrate how helpful a classification code can be, for example, you might consider research about drones. If you use the classification code for engineering and environmental psychology, which is 4000, you can limit results to the realm of robotics, or you can use the code 2400 for animal, experimental, and comparative psychology to see only results related to the social behavior of bees. So we've got a link here for the classification codes. That also reminds me, I put the PowerPoint of the slides today in the top of the chat. So you can take that file with you, download it, and take it with you. Today, I'm also going to put it back in the chat at the very end of the session today as well. So we mentioned the APA Thesaurus of psychological index terms. And so this is our controlled vocabulary for describing content variations in a standardized way. So there are many different ways of describing a concept or a phenomenon. And this example shows 17 variations of author keywords, historical phrases, and other common terms used for searching a single concept that the APA Thesaurus maps to one index term called intellectual development disorder. So this means that you can search this one index term rather than the numerous variations, and still rest assured that you'll find all of the relevant results in APA PsycInfo. You may have noticed that the way APA uses the term thesaurus is the opposite of what you typically expect from a thesaurus. So instead of looking up one term to find multiple synonyms, as in what other words could I use instead of this one, the APA Thesaurus works in reverse, using APA's controlled vocabulary to map many related terms to one single index term that you can use to build an effective search. So next up, just a quick overview of Boolean logic. So this graphic illustrates the conceptual differences of structuring a search query with the Boolean logic commands of or, and not. So A or B will give you all of the results that meet either criterion A or B. So it's the largest set. A and B is going to be the overlap of the two groups, producing only results that meet both criteria A and B. And A not B is going to restrict your results to those meeting only criteria A, while specifically excluding any results that meet criteria B. So I like to use the mnemonic or gives you more to help you remember that or is going to provide you with the largest set of results when combining search terms. So consider the conceptual differences in search results that you might see with mindfulness or meditation. So that's going to be a very large set of results compared to mindfulness and meditation, compared to mindfulness, not meditation. And that brings us to our APA PsycInfo search demonstration. Okay, so we'll have 4 searches today. We're going to look at a single variable search with facets for why do people find robots so creepy. We're going to find 3 empirical studies. We'll do a cited references exploration in search results. We will also look at a multiple variable search for happiness in Scandinavian countries, and then we're going to look at the search tool for cited references. So according to the registration data, we had EBSCO and PsycNet represented today. So I'm going to do the first 2 searches on EBSCO and the second 2 on PsycNet, but everything that you'll see here today demonstrated will work on any platform. So if you're on Ovid or ProQuest, no worries. They will work similarly, just the user interface will be a little bit different. I will also point out too that sometimes the tools are a little bit different. So I do know that cited references search tool is on PsycNet and it's on EBSCO. I am not entirely sure if it's on ProQuest or Ovid. Marta, if you know right offhand and want to jump in, that would be great. But since most of our users are on EBSCO, I felt like that was a pretty good, pretty safe thing to go ahead and include in the demo. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, switch over to my browser. Okay, you all should be seeing my screen at the moment. Log in. And I'm going to find APA database as an EBSCO host. And because I want to search PsycInfo independently and by itself, I'm just going to click on this one database. And then for this particular search demo, I'm going to actually start with the basic search box. We know that a lot of people sort of seem to prefer that single search box. So we're going to start here and kind of show you how you can get still get good results, even starting from this particular search box. Okay, so I'm going to type in, why do people find robots so creepy? And again, we're going to be looking for 3 empirical studies. But again, this is a natural language query, so this will be good to see how this goes. I also want to point out too that on EBSCO, APA's instance of it actually has this suggest subject terms selected by default. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. And what that does is it will actually suggest terms from the APA Thesaurus. And this is actually really helpful when you're new to searching, and it can help you discover new terminology used in the literature. So I'm going to search. There we go. All right, so we have no search results. So what it's doing is, because of that suggest subject terms, it's trying to anticipate what I might want to see. Looking through this list, I can click on robotics because that seems to be fairly relevant to robots, right? So if I open this up, you sort of get the information about the thesaurus term here, all of the related terms, the year it was introduced, any scope notes. So I'm going to go ahead and close that back. You'll notice that because I clicked on that, it actually winnowed down the ones that it has suggested to something more relevant to robotics. But I'm going to select it and add it to my search. And so the DE designation here, DE subjects on EBSCO, this is actually something that performs an exact search of robotics, not only in the subject headings, and on EBSCO, APA's index terms are called subject headings, but it also searches the author supplied keywords. So this is a really good, the DE subjects is a really good term to start with. Click search. Got a lot of results here, got over 7,500. So what I might want to do is go down and try to filter my results using the limits on the left side. So on EBSCO, we've got something I really like to use called subject major headings. So there's subjects and subject major headings. And so again, these subjects come from the APA Thesaurus. But this is actually right now a great way to kind of limit your result here. So human-computer interaction is where I want to go with this, since I'm talking about, you know, how humans feel about robots. So I'm going to take my results of 7,500 down to 761 in fairly short order. And the other thing I'm going to do here before we get any further is over on the right, you've got different sort of viewing options. So it automatically defaults to the newest research shown first. I'm actually going to look under page options. I want to show 50, as many as I can see at once. Oops, I need to apply that. And there we go. Scroll down. Not sure why it's not there. We go. It takes a little bit of time. Okay. And so now I'm just going to start reviewing the results to kind of see, you know, where this leads me, right? So scrolling through, you can see the subjects here. You might get an idea from looking from that, as well as the title. Scrolling down, I've got one here called mind reading machines, distinct user responses. So that seems like it might be relevant to what I'm thinking about with why people find robots creepy. And the subjects here, one of them is emotions. So might go ahead and open up this record and look for additional clues. So scrolling down through here, I see I've got the author's keywords. I've got something called Uncanny Valley, which maybe I've never heard of before. If you scroll through the abstract, that might give you some idea about how relevant this is going to be, as well as scrolling down to, we saw those subjects earlier. Whoops, I seem to have missed them. There we go. So I've got emotions and human-computer interaction, emotion recognition. So I'm going to take this information and go back to my search results. And if I were to go ahead and scroll through these, I might see more that have to do with emotion recognition. So maybe I want to go and add another index term to narrow my search even further. So if I go back up under subject major headings and I show more, scroll down, I see one here on emotion. So that's going to quickly take my results down to 24. Now that may be too few. We'll see kind of where it gets me, but I'm going to go ahead and start there. Now I've got 24 results here. One thing I'm also going to show you too is up under page options. So this is showing that sort of the citation and the subjects. I can actually in EBSCO go and show the abstract by choosing the detailed view. And I might, for 24 results, that might work fairly well. So now I can see the abstract right here before I even go into the record. So one thing I might try is using Control F on this page, because I've got 50 results and I've only got 24, so I'm going to see everything. If I were to go and look for Erie, and maybe I try to do a wildcard search, see if that, I'm not sure if that'll come up. That's actually not coming up. We got the word creepy. Okay, there's the word eerie. I think it just wasn't working. But you might consider doing something like that. If you've got a specific word, you might try to see if doing a Control F search of the abstracts this way to see, you know, if you can kind of hone in on a couple of really relevant articles. So I've got this one here, and I've got that, you know, Uncanny Valley again. I've got the word eeriness here in the title. So maybe I go ahead and click into this to kind of read and see what I might find. So I see something in the abstract says, as suggested by the Uncanny Valley hypothesis. So again, that keeps coming up a lot. So one great use of Wikipedia, for example, might be to go and look up Uncanny Valley. So I can read here, you know, that it talks about this sort of robots can provoke uncanny or strangely familiar feelings of unease and revulsion in observers, right? So maybe I go back and decide that that is a really helpful set of keywords. It's not likely to be an index term. So what I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to copy this back up, and I'm going to do a new search. Go back to my advanced, my basic search. I'm going to uncheck suggest subject terms. I'm going to type in Uncanny Valley. And that was sort of in any field, right? So now I've got 180 results, but by their very nature, if they're dealing with the Uncanny Valley, that might be, you know, I've got a huge set of results to kind of winnow through here. So one way to perhaps winnow these down further is I was looking for empirical studies, right? So I can go and down on the limits on the left, there's methodology. So I can narrow that down to empirical study. And I might even further limit. So now everything that I'm seeing here would be relevant for my assignment, right? And I might even further limit to linked full text if I needed to actually not just find them, but read each of them. So right now I've got 33 results related to Uncanny Valley with linked full text, and it's an empirical study. So don't know quite how long that search demo took, probably about 5 to 10 minutes, but you saw that I went from a natural language query and then ended up with 7,500 results to start. So I reviewed the search results to discover that terminology to describe or index those publications of interest. And then I very quickly got down to 33 results with the full text that are highly targeted within that relatively short period of time. So although we didn't end up searching with the index terms in this particular search, it did help us find this particular keyword that was helpful. But just kind of as a reminder too, there are different ways to access index terms in APA PsycInfo. So on EBSCO, for example, you've got the APA Thesaurus with psychological index terms. You can go right here and search it. You saw also too on some platforms like EBSCO, if you've got suggest subjects terms available to you, that's another way to get into it. And then of course, from the, if you use not the basic search, but the advanced search form, you can also go in and you can try searching a term and selecting subjects. Oops, looking for DE subjects. There it is up here at the top. You've got subjects, which is an exact match of the index term, and you've got DE subjects, which is, again, a search of the keywords plus the index terms. Okay, Marta, do we have any questions about this particular search or example before I move to the cited references search?
No questions.
Great, thanks. Okay. So I'm going to go to my search history. I'm going to look up cited references here. So I'm going to go back to a previous search that'll give me a lot more results here. So let's see, I wanted to do this DE robotics search with human computer interaction. So I get back to 761 results. So as I mentioned up here earlier, we've got this sort of this sort function. So I can sort it by date oldest, as well as author, source, and relevance. I have to admit, I'm not quite sure how relevance is determined. These are algorithms that are going to vary by platform. I don't actually use relevance because I'm not sure. You're welcome to try that. I generally kind of stick to the dates, but that may be something of interest to you as well. So if I choose date oldest, and I've already got my detailed view here. So, and perhaps I want to go and filter some results on the left rail, right? So I want to select references available. And maybe for this particular search, I want to see research for the last 20 years or so. So I'm going to do 2002. So you've got the cited references. Not every publication will have cited references. A lot of them do. APA started systematically collecting references in about the year 2000. So there might be publications before that that don't have them. But the ones after that will generally have them. So you got the cited references, which will move you backward in time. And so you can see them here on the search results page, or if you open a record, you've also got them over here in EBSCO on the right. I'm sorry, on the left, the other right. And then if you, let's see, there was one down here I wanted to show you. So you've also got time cited in this database. So again, so because we started for this is the oldest result from the last 20 years or so. You know, again, if you didn't limit by the last 20 years, you could very easily find seminal research this way and then follow the research trail, right? So you've got one in here. Which one was it trying to show you? Let's see if I can find it. It may not be in here. There we go, number 6. So this one, again, if you look backward, it's got 69 references that you can check out. So if you open that up, it's taking a little bit of time. So you can then view the records that this particular paper cited, or you can view the citing articles, and you can do it from right here as well. But back here, we see that it's since been cited 86 times in publications that are in this database. So if you want to look forward in time, you would look at the times cited counts and references. This one seems not to be working. There may be a bit of an issue. There we go. Okay. So now you're seeing all of the records that have since cited this. So if you want to look at newer research and go forward, you can do that for the cited by counts. Okay, so that wraps up the 2 search demos I had for EBSCO. Now I'm going to go over to APA PsycNet. And my assignment is to, do some exploration into a paper topic, and I want to start with happiness in Scandinavian countries. So, I could quickly see if happiness is an index term by searching the APA Thesaurus, and it is. So I'm going to add it to my search. and I've got over 10,300 results, kind of a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the Scandinavian countries. So what I have done, there's actually in the, let me go back and show you. If I edit my search, in the advanced search screen, if you click on this drop down, you can see the fields that are directly searchable. Anything that's not listed in here, if you leave the any field there, it'll search those particular fields. But if you scroll down, there's actually geographic location is a searchable field. So what I have done is I'm going to log into my CiteNet account, and I'm actually going to pull up a saved search. So what I did was I've already created a search where I've got geographic location of Denmark or Norway or Sweden or Finland or Iceland. So I'm going to go ahead and run this search. And now what I'm going to do is in my search history or my recent searches, I've got happiness as an index term, and I'm going to combine it with this geographic location. So happiness and location, and I'm going to run the search. And you can see that I've got 250 results. So that's a great start. If you want to be even a little more conscientious, if you go and you edit your search, you can also limit it to peer reviewed, just to be 100% certain that what you're getting is peer reviewed. And so you've got, 233 results for that. So it might take out things like dissertations, for example, are going to be, might be removed from that because they're not peer reviewed. So on the results page, again, you've got filters over here as well. And so these are things that you actually can add as a filter on the search screen. If you know in advance what you're doing, you can filter by age or by document type. This might be a way where you can go and you can say is not a dissertation, right? You can also filter by methodology. And then, so you see, clear the filters here. I go back to my search. But what I was going to show you here was if you want to filter your results afterward, you've got a couple other filters down here too. So you got something called tests and measures. So if you're looking for a specific test and measure, or if you want to get an idea of, if you're looking for something more related to life satisfaction, versus children, right? So that's one possible way to find research. And then we mentioned the classification codes earlier. So this is something else that you can use to then filter these results. So if you're looking specifically for children or certain aspects, if you're looking for, maybe in the field of medicine, these classification codes would help you narrow down to results just in those particular fields. There's other tools I wanted to show you that here, and I'm going to show you very specifically in CiteNet, but again, these exist on all the platforms. So you've got tools at the top to export, email, and print your results, as well as save individual results. So you can do, multi-select and then do this. And at the very top, you've got tools for saving a particular search, getting a permalink, and setting an email alert as well. And then your DOI link here will take you directly to the publisher's website. So if it's an APA full text, you'll end up on APA PsycInfo. And if it's an external non-APA publisher, it'll take you to the publisher's website. However, for any students and faculty that may be listening, I encourage you to double check with your librarian. You probably have access to a lot of this content, certainly more than you know about. You don't want to have to go to an external site and pay for an article that you can actually get for free through your institution. So you can definitely check out the DOI, but don't purchase until you check with your librarian. Okay. So we're going to open a record here. You can see that this one happens to be open access. And so on CiteNet, again, the interface looks a little different than EBSCO, but you have all the same information. So your author, citation, abstract. If you scroll down here, you've got ORCID IDs when they're available for the authors, which can be helpful if you want to learn more about the author and their other research. Let's see. Right, author keywords. I'm looking for there we go, geographic location. So when there's information in the location field, it will be in here, and that's what we searched for. So that's why this particular record came up, was because of that Scandinavian search that I created. You can also see, the different methodologies here. So this one happens to be not only longitudinal, but a follow-up study. And then if there is grant and sponsorship information, so it happens to have it, not all of them do, but anything that's in here, this is also an author provided field. So there's information here as well. Okay, so if I want to go back up and maybe go back to my results and I want to edit my search a little bit, there's a couple different ways I could do this. Maybe I want to edit by, narrow it by age. So if I were to go down to age group, I can see here, maybe I'm interested in school age as well as adolescence, and you can shift, multi-select, shift click to select more than one. Another way to do it is maybe I don't want to do it that way. You'll get different results. So I might add a row and maybe I will search for child, and I'm going to use an asterisk on CiteNet. It's sort of a wildcard search. So this is actually going to, I want to search any field for the word child. So this will actually return anything, any kind of different word variations. So child or children or child's apostrophe S or childhood. So if I search that way and look through the results, that takes it down to 37, but, and this happens to be for review journals too, right? So this might be a good place to start with 37. And again, if it's too small, you're welcome to, I encourage you to go ahead and look at the cited references and see where that may lead you. But this is just an example of how you can do a really pinpointed search when you know how to search and specify those database fields to find exactly what you're looking for. So keeping an eye on the time, we've got a few slides I want to go through, but before I leave CiteNet, I'm going to show you this really neat search tool. So up in the search menu, and I know EBSCO has this too, if you look under cited references, so this is a really quick way to surface a particular publication, or for example, I would actually use my advisor in grad school was named Debbie Bem Davis, and I'm using the asterisk here as a wild card because some people actually, sometimes it's as a hyphen and sometimes it's a space. So I'm going to do this. And maybe I'm looking for a publication that she did in the year 2000. So you can put, you don't have to put two fields in here, you can just put one. And when you just do a quick search, it's going to surface everything that meets those search terms. So I've got 7 of her publications here. So, and then of course you've got the cited by count. So this particular paper may have been the one I was thinking about, and I wanted to go and look and see, okay, it's been cited by 84 different other papers in the database. So that may give me a new research trail to follow. So that's just a really neat little tool. Of course, you can certainly do an author search or, you know, search by date or whatever if you're using the advanced search form, but the cited references tool is just really helpful and very quick to use. Okay. Marta, I'm going to continue on unless you let me know that I need to stop. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stay on my web, and here's why. We used to do these as slides, but now what I've done is I've basically I'm going to work through my slides, but I'm actually going to show you online what I was going to show you. So the first one up is we've got a number of different resources that can help you after you leave today. And so these are all publicly available. And so you can bookmark and share them if they're helpful. And as a reminder, that PowerPoint file that that we've already shared contains the URLs for all of these. So the things that you're seeing online here, the URLs are all in that PowerPoint file, so you can quickly get to them. So the first one up is called a quick reference guide. And so this walks you through how to search APA PsycInfo, and it includes screenshots and captions that explain the essential techniques for effective searches. So you will see things like the basics of using Boolean operators that we covered earlier, quotation marks that you can use to match an exact alphanumeric string when you're searching, as well as using the asterisk that you saw me do. That will replace one or more characters to find common word variations. I will say too that there may be different characters on different platforms. So the one I'm talking about specifically is CiteNet. It might be a question mark on a different platform, but each of the quick reference guides, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing here, my bad. Search guide is what I meant to click on. So for example, on CiteNet, if I click on the quick reference guide, anybody that's on CiteNet in the audience, it's a PDF on the website. So each, we have a quick reference guide for each of the 4 platforms, for CiteNet, for EBSCO, ProQuest, as well as Ovid. So of course you can Google it, but you can also just go to the PowerPoint if you have it and quickly click on that. So there's lots of information about different ways to search. There's a little bit about searching index terms and doing a keyword search. And then also at the end, if there's information about when you create a profile for that platform, how you can save results and searches. So that's really helpful to remember that that's there for you. Next up, we have video tutorials. So you can listen and watch on our YouTube channel to learn new tips and strategies. And so these tutorials are organized into playlists by platform and database. So again, you can bookmark, link, and share these or embed these in your course materials if you're an instructor, if you find them helpful. I mentioned that we've got webinar coming up next week, the PsycInfo Advanced Search webinar. So if you're not signed up and you're interested, you can go to our webinar training page and read a description of the webinars coming up. We've also got I'm going to circle back to this in a moment, but there's also a new thing that we've started this semester that my colleague Marta is doing. It'll be different every semester. And the topic for spring 2023 is something called APA PsycInfo Research Services. I'm going to cover this in just a moment. But in addition to the 2 regular webinars that we have, beginner search and advanced search, we now also have a semester special. And if you can't join us live, we do have recordings on our YouTube channel. We actually revamped these webinars for this particular semester. So the ones they cover a lot of the same material, but there's 3 different webinars. So this semester we're going to be working on updating the recordings, but they are there for you if you can't attend live. Next up is our APA Databases Learning Commons. And so this is an FAQ style searchable self-service help portal that has a web form for emailing your questions directly to the APA Databases support team. So if you come here and you search for an answer and you can't find it, on every page there's a can't find your answer here, and you would click on contact APA Databases support, and then you would fill out all of the information. And this generates an email that goes to the customer engagement support team, of which Marta and I actually are the 2 primary people that respond to all kinds of inquiries about APA databases. So there is actually real people and real real live support on the other end of that web form. It doesn't go into the ether, I promise you. We also have APA style resources. We've got APA style website, which has reference examples, tutorials, and instructional aids for students and educators. So you've got your style and grammar guidelines up here, instructional aids. There's the APA style blog. And so these are posts by the APA style experts that explore the varied nuances of APA style guidelines. So they do different things here. And then there's also an APA style newsletter, which is a monthly email that has tips, a Q&A, updates, and announcements. So again, the PowerPoint, I've kind of gone through all of these URLs, but the PowerPoint has the URLs for each of the things that I just mentioned. Next up, we've got some research highlights in APA journals. So we've got something called an APA Journal Spotlight. And this is a free newsletter that includes summaries of research published in APA journals. So on this page here, it's pub/highlights. There's the journal articles spotlight here. We've also got something called an editor's choice, APA editor's choice. This is relatively new. It's not on this particular highlights page, but it does highlight APA research. It's a free bi-weekly email subscription that also includes 30-day access to featured APA journal articles. So if you or your institution doesn't have access to APA Psych articles, you actually have 30-day access from the date of the email. So you can sign up. And so the idea behind this was to allow our customers and students and faculty to explore the most exciting new findings in psychological science that have been selected by APA journal editors. And so these articles have been selected as outstanding, noteworthy, and high impact for their field. So this is a relatively new feature. So again, this link is also on the PowerPoint, but this is where you would go to sign up. We've actually got a what's new slide. So I'm going to cover these sort of individually here. So first up, I mentioned this a little bit before, this semester special that Marta is going to be doing goes into depth with a little more information about the APA PsycInfo research service. So this is a service that provides research notifications that are tailored to your interests and allows you to get to full text from journals, books, dissertations, conferences, PubMeds, and more within one click. And so this is actually available to institutional users through that institutional subscription. So the semester special training webinars, the first one starts next week, next Tuesday, and they run through April 13th. So that webinar schedule page will have all of the links and the registration information there if you're interested in that. This is just a really, it's a really neat thing. I've actually set this up too, and just the weekly emails that come in. There's lots of really cool features that you can do. It allows people to keep up to date with the research coming out. You can quickly access full text, but the neatest thing that we're doing is exploring content analytics. So you give you these visualizations and different ways to explore their research, and you can sort of see them connected, how the research is connected. So we talked about like the cited references and the cited by. This is a visualization of a lot of that and allows you to really kind of dive deep into the content, as well as see different kinds of citation data and journal metrics and article statistics. So I encourage you to sign up for that if you're at all interested. We also have a new, or what's new, APA web team recently redesigned our topics portal, which is apa.org/topics. So it's in this global navigation. And so this was a major 6-month project that involved more than 80 pages to create a gateway to our best content on the science of psychology and its real world applications. So I encourage you to check that out and see what that might have to offer you. There's a listing down below of all the psychology topics. So when you click on it, you can see what we have. It's newly organized. So I hope that serves you well. And then finally, we have published in January an APA Monitor article that rounded up the top 10 APA Journal articles of 2022. So also on the website, but you can go and sort of see a brief, the title, and then a brief sort of summary, as well as a link to it. All right, so I'm right at time here and I'm just about done. Let me go back to my slides real quick. There we go. All right, so if you have questions, we are here to help. You can reach us at the URL on the screen, which I believe is the same one that I put in the chat earlier. But also too, for anyone that's at an institution, if you only take away one thing today, I'd like it to be this. So librarians love to help their students and researchers find exactly what they need. So please don't hesitate to ask one if you do need help. So they have lots of ideas about their own tips and strategies for powerful and effective searches, and they're super happy to provide search assistance if you get stuck. So I definitely recommend reaching out to them if you need to. If there are any questions, I am happy to stay on. It looks like we're right at time here, so I appreciate your time today. And I will be happy to stay on and answer any other questions that you have, or if there's anything that you want me to show you on your search platform, I can do that for you. And aside from that, I hope this has been helpful for you today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.